The twin suns of Zifra shone brightly over the royal palace, casting long shadows on the silver towers that gleamed like mirrors. Birds with iridescent feathers glided through the sky, singing songs that echoed through the gardens below. The palace was alive with movement, servants carrying trays of glowing fruits, guards patrolling the marble walkways, and noble citizens walking in flowing robes of blue and gold. Everything on Zifra was orderly, elegant, and precise. Nothing escaped the careful eyes of the royal court. Princess Lyra strolled through the palace gardens, her long golden hair catching the sunlight. She loved these quiet moments away from the constant responsibilities of court life. Here, among the flowers that bloomed in impossible colors, she could breathe freely and think. She hummed softly as she admired the patterns of the petals, their symmetry so perfect that they seemed almost artificial. Life on Zifra had always been predictable, safe, and beautiful until today. A sudden rumble shattered the calm. Lyra froze, her heart quickening. The ground beneath her feet shook violently as a streak of light tore across the sky, trailing smoke and fire. People screamed and ran, scattering in all directions. From the palace balcony, the queen's guards raised alarms, their voices echoing across the gardens. Something or someone was coming, and it was not supposed to be there. Lyra ran toward the disturbance, weaving between fountains and flowering shrubs. She saw a trail of scorched earth, leading to the far end of the gardens, and there, lying in a crater, was a man. Not an alien, not one of her people, a human. His body was battered, his clothes torn, and smoke rose from his shoulder, yet he stirred. He blinked rapidly, trying to clear his vision, and struggled to push himself up from the ground. Despite his injuries, he moved with a strength and determination that caught Lyra off guard. She gasped. Humans were considered fragile on Zifra. Their bones broke easily. Their skin was soft, and their bodies were unpredictable. Most Zifrans thought humans would not survive even a simple fall from a tree, let alone survive a crash from space. Yet here he was, alive and moving. "Are you okay?" Lyra called, her voice trembling slightly. The man looked up at her, his green eyes bright and alert. I think so," he said, his voice rough from the crash. "Where am I?" Lyra hesitated. How could she explain this? "You are on Zifra," she said finally. You are in the royal palace gardens." The human struggled to his feet, wincing at the pain in his arm. He looked around, scanning the elegant towers and shining fountains, and then back at Lyra. "Palace," he repeated, his tone confused. I don't belong here." "You don't belong anywhere here," Lyra admitted softly, a small smile forming on her lips despite the shock. "But you are alive, and that is what matters." Suddenly, the sound of alarm bells echoed through the palace. The queen's voice rang out over the commotion. "Identify the intruder. Bring him to me." Lyra's heart sank. She knew how seriously the queen took security. Aliens who were considered spies or threats were rarely shown mercy. She had to act quickly. Without thinking, she stepped in front of the human. "Stop," she shouted at the approaching guards. "He is not dangerous." The guards skidded to a halt, their long silver spears raised. They looked at her, confused. Lyra's eyes met theirs, and she spoke with a confidence she did not fully feel. "I will take responsibility for him. He is mine." The word mine sounded strange in her own ears, but it felt right. There was something about this human that drew her in, something that made her want to protect him, to show him kindness in a world that could be harsh. The guards hesitated. "Princess Lyra," one of them began, but she held up her hand. "I said I will take responsibility," she repeated firmly. "Do not harm him." For a tense moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the guards lowered their weapons. Lyra turned back to the human. "Come with me," she said, quickly. He nodded, still dazed, and allowed her to guide him through the palace gates. As they walked, the human took in the sight of the palace. Everything was different from his home planet. The colors were brighter, the air cleaner, and the structures taller than anything he had ever seen. He felt small and out of place, yet there was a strange comfort in Lyra's presence, as if her calm confidence could shield him from the unknown. Finally, They reached the throne room. The room was enormous, with high ceilings that seemed to touch the sky. Crystal chandeliers hung above, reflecting light in a dazzling display. At the far end of the room, the queen sat on her throne, regal and imposing. Her eyes, sharp and piercing, fell on the human. "Who is that?" she demanded, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. Lyra stepped forward, standing tall despite the nervous flutter in her chest. "He is my human," she said clearly. The court fell silent. Murmurs ran through the room as nobles exchanged puzzled glances. "You're human," one of the council members whispered. "Is that even possible?" The queen's eyes narrowed. "Explain," she commanded, her gaze fixed on Lyra. Lyra took a deep breath. "He crash-landed on Zifra. He survived the fall. Despite his injuries, he is different from us, yes, but there is courage in him, strength in ways we do not fully understand. I wish to protect him." The queen studied the human closely. He was indeed weak in appearance, smaller, softer, and far less imposing than her warriors, but there was something undeniable in his eyes. Determination, something that said he would not give up, no matter the odds. "You speak boldly for one so young," the queen said, her tone measured. "But courage is not measured in words alone. We shall see if your human is as you claim." Lyra nodded, relief and fear mixing in her chest. "Thank you, mother," she whispered. The queen waved her hand, signaling the guards to step back, for now. "He shall stay under your care," she said. "But know this, if he proves unworthy, no one, not even you, will be able to save him." Lyra swallowed hard, but did not let fear show. She turned to the human and gave him a small smile. "Welcome to Zifra," she said softly. "You have a lot to learn, but I believe you can do it." The human, still breathing heavily from the crash, looked around at the palace, the guards, and the queen. He did not fully understand what was happening, but one thing was clear. He had survived against impossible odds, and somehow he had earned a place here. He nodded slowly, determination settling in his expression. I will try," he said. "I will not fail." Lyra's heart lifted at his words. She could see the spark of human resilience, the thing that set them apart from all others. It was raw, untamed, and unpredictable. It was courage without calculation, strength without rigidity. And already she knew that this human would change more than just her life. Outside the palace windows, the suns continued to shine. The gardens were still and quiet once more. But a new presence had arrived, one that would challenge the ways of Zifra and, perhaps, inspire the queen to see strength in a way she never had before. The human warrior, battered and strange, had stepped into a world that did not understand him. But Lyra had seen something others had not, the potential for greatness, for courage, and for hope. And with that, the first threads of a remarkable story began to weave, a story of humans, of aliens, of trust, and of heroism that transcended worlds. The queen leaned back in her throne, eyes still sharp, yet thoughtful. "We shall see," she murmured to herself. "We shall see what this human can do." And for the first time in centuries, the palace of Zifra felt the stirrings of change. The morning light spilled into the palace gardens, casting a soft glow on the fountains and flowers. Princess Lyra was already awake, walking along the marble paths as she thought about the human who now lived in the palace. Captain Elias had spent the night recovering from his injuries, yet he was already awake, moving carefully across the room. Lyra admired his determination. Even in pain, he refused to give up. It was this resilience that made her believe he might survive in a world that saw him as weak. The queen, however, was not so easily convinced. She had summoned her council and decided that Elias needed to prove himself. The palace had strict rules for testing warriors, and even the bravest aliens faced difficult trials before earning honor. Humans, fragile as they were, had never been tested in Zifra. The queen's gaze fell on Lyra. "Your human claims courage," she said. "But words alone are not enough. He will undergo the test of worth. Only then shall he prove if he belongs here." Lyra nodded. She had expected this challenge, but felt a mixture of fear and hope. She knew Elias could not rely on strength alone. He would have to show creativity, intelligence, and courage. She entered his room and found him sitting quietly, staring at the palace walls. "Princess Lyra," he said, his voice soft but determined, "I know I am not like them. I know I am not strong like your warriors. But I will try. I promise I will not fail." Lyra smiled. "That is all anyone can ask of you," she said. "The queen has prepared trials for you. They will test your mind, your body, and your courage. You must face them with your wits as much as with your strength." Elias nodded and followed her through the palace corridors. The air was cool, and the walls shimmered with holographic images of Zifra's history. Guards watched silently as they passed, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and doubt. The first trial would begin in the Hall of Strength, a vast chamber filled with machines, weights, and obstacles designed to challenge even the most skilled alien warriors. The human stepped into the hall and froze for a moment. Everything was enormous, too large for him to handle in the same way the aliens could. He could feel the eyes of the queen and her council upon him, measuring him, waiting to see him fail. But he drew a deep breath, recalling the long journey that had brought him here. He had survived a spaceship crash. He had faced impossible odds on his own planet. He could do this. The first obstacle was a series of heavy gravity lifts, enormous metallic blocks that had to be moved to open the passage to the next chamber. Alien warriors could lift them with ease, their muscles strong and efficient. Elias studied the blocks carefully, noticing the levers and gears that controlled them. Using his knowledge of mechanics, he devised a way to move the blocks step by step, combining leverage and timing. Slowly but surely, he pushed them aside, the sweat on his brow shining in the bright hall lights. The council murmured in surprise. The human had not raw strength, but he had ingenuity, a quality Zifrans respected but rarely needed. Next came the labyrinth of shadows, a twisting maze filled with illusions, moving walls, and traps. Alien warriors relied on memory, instinct, and their advanced senses to navigate the maze. Elias, however, had no such advantages. He paused, studying the patterns of movement and listening to the faint sounds of the mechanisms. Step by step, he predicted the wall's movements, marking safe paths with small stones and observing the traps with patience. When a floor panel tilted beneath his weight, he jumped just in time, barely avoiding a spike trap. Lyra watched from the observation balcony, heart racing. She had never been more proud of someone, and she could feel the court's attention shifting as well. The human was proving that adaptability and careful thinking could match, and sometimes surpass, brute strength. By the end of the labyrinth, Elias was exhausted, his arms and legs trembling. Yet he smiled faintly, relieved that he had made it. He looked up at Lyra, who nodded encouragingly. "You are stronger than they think," she said softly. The third trial was the test of mind, held in a quiet chamber filled with glowing crystals and holographic puzzles. Here, warriors faced challenges of logic, memory, and strategy. Alien minds were sharp, but rigid. Elias found the puzzles strange and difficult at first, but he quickly realized that the solution often required thinking differently. Instead of following the obvious paths, he experimented, trying combinations that seemed illogical. Slowly, the crystals lit up one by one, responding to his unconventional methods. A member of the council whispered to another, "He solves problems in ways we cannot predict. Perhaps there is something in him." Elias completed the final puzzle with a satisfied grin. "That's 3, he said quietly to himself. 3 down, 1 to go." The final trial was the most feared, the Gauntlet of Courage, a chamber designed to test bravery, endurance, and decision-making under pressure. Simulated threats surrounded the warrior, roaring holographic beasts, collapsing platforms, and dangerous energy fields. Alien warriors ran forward with confidence, their reflexes nearly perfect. Elias hesitated for a moment, recalling the training he had received on his home planet. He had faced fear before, but never like this. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. Each step required careful calculation, sometimes courage, and sometimes speed. When a holographic beast lunged at him, he dodged, not relying on strength, but on timing and observation. When a platform began to collapse, he leaped with precision, landing safely. He realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite fear. By the time he reached the center of the gauntlet, he was breathing heavily, bruised, and scratched, but triumphant. The queen's eyes, once sharp and suspicious, now held a trace of curiosity and respect. Lyra ran to meet him as the gauntlet deactivated. "You did it," she said, smiling brightly. "You passed all the trials?" Elias shook his head, still catching his breath. I did what I could," he said. "I never thought I would survive the first test, but somehow I made it through all of them." The queen stepped forward, her regal presence commanding silence. "Human," she said, her voice steady, "you have done what many of our strongest warriors could not. You have faced tests designed for aliens and survived through ingenuity, courage, and determination. You have proven that your kind may possess strength in ways we did not imagine." A murmur of approval ran through the court. Nobles who had doubted him nodded quietly. Some still whispered among themselves, but the mood had shifted. The human had earned a place in their respect, even if it was tentative. Lyra approached him and placed a hand gently on his arm. "See, I told you could do it," she said softly. "You have a strength that is different from theirs, but it is just as powerful." Elias smiled. "A little, Riley. I did it because you believed in me," he admitted. "I had to try, not just for me, but for you." The queen observed the exchange carefully. She had always valued discipline, skill, and order above all else. Yet she could not deny what she had seen. Humans, though weaker in appearance, could think, adapt, and act in ways even the most trained alien warriors could not. There was a spark in them, a light that refused to be extinguished. "You may rest for now," the queen said finally, returning to her throne. "But know this, tests are only the beginning. There are challenges ahead that will require every ounce of courage and every shred of intelligence you possess. Your human ways may surprise us, and perhaps even save us." Lyra looked at Elias, her heart full of pride and hope. The palace had begun to see a new kind of strength, one that was human, unpredictable, and inspiring. She could not wait to see what he would do next, for she already knew that the ordinary had just become extraordinary. Outside the palace walls, the twin suns continued to shine, and the gardens were calm once more. But within the palace, the story of a human warrior was only beginning, a story of courage, ingenuity, and the quiet power that came from refusing to give up. And for the first time, the court of Zifra had seen what humans could truly be. The peace of Zifra did not last long. Only a few days had passed since Elias completed the trials, and already the palace buzzed with tension. Scouts had reported unusual activity in the outer sectors of the planet. Strange vessels, dark and silent, moved swiftly across the skies. Aliens whispered among themselves, worry written across their elegant faces. Something was coming, something dangerous. Princess Lyra stood on the balcony of her tower, looking out over the sparkling city below. Beside her, Elias observed the horizon, his green eyes sharp despite the fatigue from the trials. "They're different from anything I've seen," he said quietly. "They're ships. They don't follow normal patterns. They strike fast and disappear just as quickly." Lyra frowned. "Zifra has never faced such enemies," she said. "Our defenses are strong, but we rely on order and strategy. The invaders, they may not follow the rules." Elias nodded. "Then we need to think differently. Strength alone won't stop them. We'll need creativity, surprises, and courage." The queen summoned the council to the war room, a chamber filled with holographic maps of the planet and its surrounding space. Elite generals and advisors hovered over glowing displays, their movements precise and practiced. They had trained for battles before, but none had faced foes like these. The queen's voice was steady and commanding as she addressed the council. "We face a threat unlike any we have known," she said. "Their technology is advanced, their attacks unpredictable. Our warriors alone may not succeed. We must prepare, and we must adapt." The council members murmured nervously. Then one of the generals spoke. "Your Majesty, we have faced enemies before. Our forces are disciplined, our tactics refined. We will meet them with strength. The queen shook her head. Strength alone may fail, she replied. Her eyes turned to Elias. Human, your courage and ingenuity have surprised us. You will advise us on this battle. Perhaps your ways can give us an advantage. Elias felt a mix of pride and pressure. He had never commanded an alien army before. He had survived trials, yes, but this was a battle for an entire planet. Yet he did not falter. I will do my best, he said. We need to use the environment, the speed of the enemy, and the unpredictability of their attacks to our advantage. We cannot fight them like we fight ourselves. Lyra touched his arm lightly. I believe in you, she said, and the queen trusts you now. You are not alone. The first skirmish came at dusk. Alien scouts reported a fleet approaching the northern coast, moving faster than any Zephyr ship. The queen's fleet rose from the harbor, sleek in silver, their weapons charged. Yet even as they advanced, the enemy shifted direction, striking where the defenders had least expected. Elias watched carefully, noticing patterns the alien commanders had missed. They're testing us, he said. They want to see how we react. We need to change our formation. Draw them toward the mountains. They will be slowed, and we can use that to our advantage. The generals hesitated. Their strategies were set. Following Elias' advice meant breaking protocol, risking discipline and order. But the queen's gaze, calm yet firm, encouraged them. Slowly, they adjusted the fleet according to Elias' plan. As the enemy ships moved into the mountains, their speed decreased, and their formation became chaotic. Different ships struck from hidden passes, firing in bursts that the enemy could not anticipate. Each move was calculated, yet unpredictable, combining alien strength with human creativity. Lyra watched in awe as Elias directed the battle, his mind moving quickly from one problem to the next. Use the narrow canyon, he shouted. They will crash if we block the exit. The command was executed perfectly. The enemy fleet faltered, some ships colliding with rocks, others turning back in panic. Zephyr warriors, inspired by Elias' courage, fought with renewed energy, adapting strategies in real time. Hours passed, and the sun dipped below the horizon. By nightfall, the first wave of invaders was defeated. Zephyr's skies cleared, but the sense of victory was tempered by the knowledge that more enemies were coming. The queen convened the council once more. Today, you saw the value of human insight, she said. It has saved lives and changed the course of battle. We must continue to listen, to learn, and to adapt. We cannot rely on strength alone. Elias felt exhausted but satisfied. He had led alien warriors into combat, and they had followed him. Their trust was growing, and with it, the realization that humans were capable of more than appearances suggested. Later that night, Lyra found Elias on the palace balcony, staring at the stars. You did well today, she said softly. He shook his head. I just did what I thought would work. You're the one who helped me understand them, what they expect, what they fear. Without your guidance, I would have failed. Lyra smiled. You have a gift, she said. They may be stronger, faster, more disciplined, but you see things differently. That is what makes you extraordinary. The human looked out at the horizon, the faint glow of distant enemy ships reflecting in his eyes. I've always believed that courage can make a difference, he said. But seeing it in action, it's more than I imagined. The people here, they can be inspired to do things they never thought possible. A sudden alert interrupted their quiet moment. Sensors detected movement in the southern sector, far larger than the first wave. The queen's face grew stern. They are regrouping, she said. This is no mere scouting force. They intend to strike the heart of Zephyr. Elias clenched his fists. Then we need a plan, he said. A plan they won't expect. We cannot just meet them head-on. We must use every trick, every weakness in their tactics. The queen nodded slowly. You will lead this strategy, she said. If it fails, our planet may fall. But I trust you. For now, Lyra touched Elias' shoulder. I will be with you, she said. We face this together. Over the next hours, Elias worked with the generals to devise a strategy unlike any Zephyr had seen, using hidden valleys, narrow canyons, and mirrored surfaces to confuse the enemy's sensors. They planned an ambush, Aliens who had doubted him now followed his directions without question. Inspired by his courage and clarity. As the sun rose, the enemy fleet appeared again, larger and more aggressive. They moved with confidence, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they encountered confusion, misdirection, and traps they had not anticipated. Aliens fought alongside human-inspired tactics, blending strength with creativity. Elias directed movements with precision, anticipating enemy maneuvers before they happened. When a squad of invaders tried to flank the main forces, he ordered a rapid redeployment through a canyon path no Zifran would have chosen. The enemy crashed into the rocks, caught off guard, and chaos erupted in their ranks. From the palace towers, Lyra watched the battle unfold. Her heart swelled with pride and relief. The human she had protected, the one she had called her human, had become a beacon of hope for her people. Courage, determination, and quick thinking, the qualities of humanity, had turned the tide of war. Hours later, the enemy fleet retreated, their ships damaged and morale broken. Zifra had survived the first major assault, and the victory was celebrated across the planet. Yet Elias knew the war was far from over. More challenges would come, and each would demand ingenuity, courage, and trust. The queen addressed the court, her expression softer than before. "This human has shown us what we did not know about strength," she said. "Not all power comes from muscles or speed. Some power comes from courage, creativity, and the ability to inspire others. Let this be a lesson to all of Zifra." Lyra stepped forward, taking Elias' hand. "He is more than a human," she said proudly. "He is a warrior, a friend, and a reminder that courage can change the world." Elias looked at the queen and the court, feeling a sense of belonging he had never known. He had arrived as a stranger, fragile and out of place. Now, he had proven that humans, though different, were capable of greatness, capable of heroism that transcended appearance or expectation. That night, as the twin suns set behind the palace, Elias and Lyra stood together on the balcony, watching the stars. "They will come again," Elias said quietly. Lyra nodded. "And next time, we will be ready," she replied. Elias smiled faintly. "Not just ready, stronger. Together, humans and aliens can face anything." The stars above Zifra shimmered, silent witnesses to a new kind of heroism, one born not from alien perfection, but from the courage, creativity, and determination of a human warrior. And for the first time, the people of Zifra understood that heroism could come in forms they had never imagined. The calm after the first battle gave Zifra a brief moment of peace, but the palace remained tense. The queen had ordered all defenses strengthened, and the city's energy was focused on preparing for the next wave of invaders. Yet in the quiet moments, a different story unfolded, one of trust, friendship, and respect between a human and a princess. Princess Lyra walked through the palace corridors, her thoughts on Elias. She had watched him during the battle, seeing the courage in his eyes, the quick thinking that had turned potential defeat into victory. His presence had changed something in her, a sense of hope she had never felt before. Now, she found him in the gardens, studying maps and observing the movements of Zifra's warriors. "Elias," she called softly. He looked up, his green eyes meeting hers, bright with focus and curiosity. "You're studying the next possible attack," she said, noticing the careful lines he had drawn on the maps. "I see you've already planned for contingencies." Elias nodded. "They will come again, and this time they will try something different. I need to understand every possible movement, every weakness we can exploit. Our strength is in preparation and in adaptability. We must act before they strike." Lyra smiled. "I've seen humans like you in stories, people who never give up, no matter how impossible the odds. It's strange to see one here, in our palace, in our world." Elias looked at her, his expression serious. "Strange, yes, but I have a purpose now. I'm not just surviving, I'm helping. And I think humans can show Zifra ways it never imagined, not just in battle, but in courage, in thinking differently, and inspiring others." Lyra felt warmth in her chest. "You have already inspired me," she said softly. "More than you know." The queen observed them quietly from a distance, her keen eyes noting the bond forming. She had always valued discipline and strength above all else. Yet she could not deny the effect Elias had on those around him. His courage was catching, his determination infectious. Even the elite warriors who had doubted him now looked to him for guidance. The queen's thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of a messenger. "Your Majesty," the guard said. Bowing low, sensors detect movement near the southern border. The enemy fleet approaches once more. They are larger than before, and their formation is unlike anything we have seen. The queen straightened. "Prepare the defenses. This time, I want Elias to lead the strategy." Lyra turned to Elias. Her eyes filled with pride and concern. "They will attack soon. Are you ready?" Elias took a deep breath. "I have to be. I will do everything I can to protect this planet. And you?" Lyra's cheeks flushed slightly at his words. "Then let us show them what humans and Ziphrans can do together," she said, determination shining in her voice. The battle began as the twin suns dipped behind the mountains. The alien invaders moved swiftly, their dark ships casting long shadows across the city. Ziphra's defenders took position, ready to meet them. But Elias noticed something the others did not. The enemy was using a new formation, attempting to divide and confuse the defenders. "They expect us to fight normally," Elias said to the generals. "They do not expect unpredictability. Use the rivers, the forests, and the cliffs. Divide your forces in unexpected ways. Make them think they are winning, then strike where they cannot anticipate." The generals hesitated, unsure of the plan, but the queen's calm gaze encouraged them. Slowly, they adjusted their formations according to Elias' directions. The battle raged for hours. Laser beams streaked across the sky, energy shields flashed, and the sound of alarms filled the city. But Elias moved through the battlefield with a clarity and focus that was remarkable. He directed squads of warriors to use terrain advantages, set traps for the invaders, and exploit weaknesses in their strategy. Every move was precise, yet flexible, allowing for adaptation as the enemy shifted tactics. Lyra stayed close, coordinating communication between different units, and ensuring that Elias' plan was executed smoothly. She was amazed at his ability to remain calm under pressure, to see solutions that no alien commander could have anticipated. During the battle, a group of invaders broke through the outer defenses and headed toward the palace itself. Lyra's heart pounded as she saw them approaching the royal gates. Without hesitation, Elias sprinted forward, positioning himself between the intruders and the palace. Using quick thinking rather than brute force, he lured the invaders into a narrow alley, where their numbers became a disadvantage. One by one, they were captured or repelled, their confidence shattered by a human's ingenuity. Lyra rushed to his side. "Elias, that was incredible," she said, breathless. He shook his head, smiling faintly. "We're not done yet. The battle isn't over, but we're winning because we work together. Strength alone would not have saved the city." The queen watched from her tower. Her expression softened with approval. "Perhaps humans are more than fragile beings," she murmured to herself. "Perhaps their courage and creativity are the true weapons." By nightfall, the invaders had retreated. Ziphra had survived another assault, thanks to Elias' leadership and the combined efforts of human-inspired strategy and alien strength. The city erupted in celebration, yet Elias and Lyra knew the war was far from over. In the quiet after the battle, Lyra and Elias walked through the gardens, where the air was filled with the scent of flowers and the soft glow of lamps. "You've changed things here," Lyra said, her voice gentle. "The people, the warriors, even the queen sees your value now." Elias looked at her, humility in his eyes. "I didn't do it alone," he said. "You guided me, taught me how to communicate with them, how to inspire them. You believed in me when no one else did." Lyra smiled, her fingers brushing lightly against his arm. "We believed in each other," she said. "That is what makes us stronger." Their bond grew deeper with every shared challenge. Elias began to understand not only the people of Ziphra, but their culture, their values, and their way of life. In turn, Lyra saw the unique qualities humans brought: adaptability, courage, and the ability to inspire others simply by acting with conviction. The queen, observing them from afar, realized that this bond was more than friendship, it was a bridge between worlds. Humans and Ziphrans could complement each other, combining alien discipline with human ingenuity. The Queen's thoughts lingered on the possibilities, and for the first time, she began to hope that the human warrior might not only survive, but help Zifra thrive in ways she had never imagined. Days passed, and training continued. Elias worked alongside Zifran warriors, teaching them human strategies while learning more about their strengths. The palace halls were filled with laughter, debate, and mutual respect. Even the youngest warriors looked to him with admiration, inspired by the courage of someone so different yet so determined. One evening, as the sun set behind the palace towers, Lara found Elias practicing combat drills with the guards. He moved with precision, yet each motion was adapted to his smaller human frame. Lara watched, amazed at how he turned perceived weakness into strength. "You make it look effortless," she said softly. Elias paused and smiled faintly. "It's not effortless," he admitted. "It's thinking differently, using what you have, and never giving up. That is what humans do." "That is what I do," Lara nodded. "And that is why I trust you. You are more than a warrior, you are a symbol of hope, for me and for Zifra." Elias felt a warmth in his chest, a mix of pride and humility. "Then I will not fail," he said quietly. "I will do everything I can to protect this world, and the people I have come to care for." As night fell, the palace glowed under the light of the twin moons. The city was alive with celebration, yet beneath it, a quiet determination lingered. Elias and Lyra stood together, looking toward the stars, ready for whatever challenges the future might bring. For the first time, the people of Zifra saw that courage, creativity, and trust could bridge worlds. The bond between human and princess had grown, and with it, the promise of a stronger, united planet, one that could face any threat with hope, ingenuity, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. And so, as the twin moons rose high in the sky, Zifra prepared for the battles yet to come, guided by a human warrior whose courage had already begun to change their world forever. The morning air on Zifra was tense with anticipation. After weeks of preparing for battle, the enemy had returned stronger, smarter, and more determined than before. Scouts reported a massive fleet approaching from the southern sector, their dark shapes blotting out the horizon. The twin suns cast long shadows across the city, and the palace shimmered with quiet determination. Princess Lyra stood on the palace balcony, her golden hair lifted by a soft breeze. Beside her, Elias studied the approaching fleet, his green eyes sharp and calculating. The human warrior had grown into his role, earning respect not only from the queen and council, but from every soldier who followed him. His courage, intelligence, and creativity had turned the tide before, but this battle would test him like never before. "They're larger than last time," Lyra said, her voice steady yet filled with concern. "We cannot rely on brute strength alone." Elias shook his head. "We never have," he replied. "Strength without strategy is wasted. This time, we combine everything: our soldiers, the terrain, traps, and unpredictability. We fight differently, and that is our advantage." The queen watched them both from her throne room. "Your human has taught us a lesson," she said softly. "That courage and ingenuity can rival raw power. Today, we will see if he can save Zifra completely." The fleet descended rapidly, firing bursts of energy toward the city's outer defenses. Aliens moved with precision, their shields shimmering as they absorbed the attacks. But Elias noticed a pattern. The enemy was attempting to divide and conquer, striking multiple fronts simultaneously. "They expect us to defend normally," Elias said to the generals. "They do not expect unpredictability. Split your forces, but make it appear weak. Lure them into the canyon passes, the valleys, the river routes. Every natural obstacle becomes a weapon. Then we strike hard, fast, and together." The generals hesitated. Alien discipline valued order above all else, yet Elias' plan required flexibility, adaptation, and trust in one human's judgment. The queen stepped forward. "Follow his guidance," she commanded. "This human has earned it." As the battle began, the skies of Zifra lit up with energy blasts, the roar of engines, and the hum of shields, Elias directed units across the battlefield, anticipating enemy maneuvers before they happened. When a squad of invaders tried to flank the palace, he ordered defenders to move through narrow mountain passes, cutting off the attackers' path. They were trapped, unable to maneuver, while different forces struck with precision. Lyra coordinated communication between units, relaying Elias' orders and offering encouragement to soldiers. Every move was calculated, yet flexible, blending human ingenuity with alien discipline. Hours passed, and the enemy fleet pressed harder. A massive wave of ships approached the northern gates. Threatening to breach the city, Elias spotted a weakness. In their formation, the outer ships were to focus on attacking, leaving their center exposed. He quickly devised a bold maneuver. Divide the cavalry, he shouted. Take the inner path through the mountains, strike their core while the front lines are distracted. The generals hesitated for a moment, but the queen's gaze encouraged them. Slowly, they executed the plan. The results were astonishing. The inner fleet of Ziphrans emerged unexpectedly, behind the enemy lines, catching them off guard. Chaos spread among the attackers as their coordination failed. Elias did not stop there. He noticed another threat squadron attempting to land near the palace gates. Without hesitation, he ran forward, guiding small teams of soldiers to set traps and block their advance. Using quick thinking rather than brute force, he turned the terrain against them. Collapsing bridges, narrow cliffs, and mirrored surfaces confused the invaders, forcing them to retreat or be captured. During the heat of battle, Lyra found herself fighting beside Elias. In the palace gardens, though trained for leadership, she was no stranger to combat. "You're incredible," she shouted over the roar of engines and energy blasts. Elias smiled faintly. "We're incredible together," he replied. "Trust your instincts. Move where they least expect." Their teamwork inspired the soldiers around them. Alien troops, once rigid in strategy, began to adapt. Blending their disciplined strength with human creativity, the tide of battle turned rapidly, and the invaders, expecting easy victory, faltered under the coordinated, unpredictable defense. The climax came when the enemy flagship entered the city's outer perimeter. Its weapons primed to destroy the palace, Elias studied the ship carefully. Its shields were strong, its guns powerful, but every machine had a weakness, using a combination of distraction and precise strikes. He directed a squad of elite Ziphrans to hit critical points while the rest of the forces engaged. The outer fleet, the flagship's shields flickered, then collapsed, with a final burst of energy. The ship was disabled and forced to retreat. The remaining enemy vessels, seeing their leader defeated, scattered across the horizon. The skies cleared, leaving Zifra safe once more. Cheers erupted across the city. Soldiers and citizens alike celebrated the victory, their voices echoing through the streets and towers. Yet amid the jubilation, the queen approached Elias, her expression serious but softened with respect, human. She said, her voice carrying across the hall, "You have done what many thought impossible. You have led our people, inspired our warriors, and defended Zifra with courage and ingenuity. You have proven that humanity is not weak, but capable of heroism beyond measure." Elias bowed slightly, humbled by her words. "I only did what I thought was right," he said quietly. "I am grateful for your trust, your majesty." The queen nodded. "Trust earned is trust deserved," she said. Her eyes then turned to Lyra. "And you, princess, have chosen well. This human has not only defended your planet, but also shown the potential for unity and greatness. Across worlds." Lyra stepped forward, taking Elias' hand. "He is more than a warrior," she said proudly. "He is my human, and he has shown us all what courage, determination, and ingenuity can achieve." Elias looked around at the people of Zifra, at the soldiers who had fought beside him, at the queen who had once doubted him, and at Lyra, whose faith had never wavered. He realized that the impossible had been achieved not by one being alone, but by trust, collaboration, and belief in potential. In the days that followed, the city celebrated its victory. Monuments were erected, songs were sung, and stories of the human warriors spread across Zifra. Children played at being humans and aliens working together. Inspired by a courage they had witnessed, Elias trained the young warriors, teaching them human tactics alongside Zifra discipline. He and Lyra walked through the gardens often, discussing plans for the future and sharing quiet moments amidst the ongoing duties of the palace. The bond between them grew stronger, built not only on admiration but on shared experience, trust, and the recognition of each other's strengths. The queen, once wary, now smiled with approval. Perhaps humans are not so fragile after all, she said to herself one evening, watching the sunset. Their courage, creativity, and loyalty are strengths we cannot ignore. This human has changed Zifra forever, and indeed, he had Elias, the human warrior who had arrived battered and unknown, had become a symbol of heroism. He had inspired an entire civilization to see beyond appearances, to value courage and ingenuity, and to recognize the potential of a human being. As the twin moons rose over the palace towers, Elias and Lyra stood together on the balcony, looking out at the city they had helped save. The air was calm, filled with the quiet satisfaction of survival and the excitement of possibility. "Do you think we're ready for whatever comes next?" Lyra asked. Elias smiled. "We will always face challenges," he said. "But now, we know what humans and Zifrans can do together. We are stronger because we trust each other, because we adapt, because we never give up." Lyra leaned on him, feeling the weight of the past battles and the hope for the future. "Then let us face the future together," she said softly. And so, Zifra entered a new era, one of unity, courage, and inspiration, led by a human warrior whose determination had proven that greatness was not measured by strength alone, but by heart, mind, and the courage to stand when all seemed lost. The story of Elias, the human, would be told for generations, a reminder that humanity, though fragile in appearance, was capable of heroism, resilience, and inspiration beyond measure. And in the palace, where twin suns and twin moons watched over the land, a human and a princess stood side by side, ready to face whatever the stars might bring.